Bueno, pues vamos a empezar a jugar a esto, a ver qué tal está. El juego me ha venido recomendado por alguien de cuyo gusto me fío. Suena muy alto. En la transmisión supongo que no tanto, porque lo tengo bajado, pero hostia, me suena ahora mismo altísimo. La primera sorpresa es que siendo un juego indie, así con perspectiva lateral y con estos gráficos con pixelaco enormes, pues no me esperaba que tuviera una banda sonora como esta, música clásica. Podría haberlo comprobado, pero he sido demasiado vago. Diría, si no me equivoco, que es Claro de Luna, de Beethoven. Y es una maravilla. Ya estuve mirando un poco las opciones. Eso es lo único, no he llegado ni a empezarlo. Pero le he echado un vistazo a esto. Tiene 4K, lo cual tampoco se nota mucho porque tiene unos pixelacos como fucking puños. Y bueno, los controles y tal no he llegado a mirar nada. Ya lo empezaré a probar, empezaré a jugarlo. Sí que lo voy a bajar un poquito el volumen. Está un pelín alto. Ahí. Vamos a ver qué tal está. Empezamos Horace. O Horace, no sé cómo se pronuncia. Ah, ese es un cuerpo. La cabeza. Están haciendo un Iron Man, pero que no es Man. Un Iron. Hostia puta, jugar a 4K un juego hecho a base de pixel art, que la resolución nativa sería menos de 1080. Duele. Pixelacos como fucking puños. Creo que se está colando el sonido del juego en el micro. Puede que un poco. Man 2.0. Ahí está. Primer modelo a chuparla. No me motiva ver esa cutscene teniendo en cuenta que dentro de una semana estoy yo contratando un servicio de envío para que se lleve mi monitor 4K a Córdoba. Bueno, ahí está el sirviente sudándosela todo. Sudándosela un buen puñado. Ah, que me la suda, que me llamen. Hostia, qué bueno. Se mueve como si fuera un Little Frankenstein. Puedo agachar y puedo mirar para arriba. Ah, está andando como si fuera un bebé. Robot bebé. Qué chulo.
And so, I was born. The first people I remember seeing were the old man, the old lady, and their daughter, Heather. After they'd said hello, the old man powered me down so he could install some software.
¿De las Ninja 4?
I could tell they were nice people. The old man didn't give me a silly voice or stupid personality. And the old lady didn't dress me like a clown. Although for some reason, Heather really didn't like me. Once I'd had time to get used to walking, the old man asked me to dash from one end of the room to the other.
Oh, qué chulo, tío. Hostia.
Next, the old man spent a couple of hours building some wooden platforms. He said he wanted me to jump up them, but I must admit, I was scared.
Qué
It
gracioso.
wasn't until I saw Heather and her mother happily climbing up them that I decided it might be okay.
Hay una cosilla, me gusta mucho cuando se aleja la cámara. El juego se ve bien y se ve muy bonito. a 4K, se ve gracioso, pero en los zoom se ve bastante mal, porque no está pensado para estas resoluciones y estos tamaños de pantalla. Y lo mismo intento buscar a ver si hay algún mod que lo resuelva un poco. Qué forma más chula de prepararte un tutorial, por cierto. Te lo meten en la historia. Muy bien. Y así aprovechan para
The
irte
old
contando.
man then rearranged the platforms. He told me to try to reach the other end of the room without touching the floor. Heather said the floor's made of lava. But when I smiled at her, she just frowned and looked away. The old
Qué
lady
bueno.
arranged some pillows and blankets. She said it was in case I fell, but I think she just wanted it to look more like lava.
Hostia, el doblaje es muy bueno, ¿eh? Oh.
When I reached the other side, the old man just smiled and said, "That'll do for now."
Aprendiendo a caminar. Al principio me parecía que estaba bien pensado. Hay una cosa que tengo que cambiar. Ah, no, no. Iba a bajarme mi volumen porque parecía que estaba muy alto, pero vamos. Hey, Valiant, ¿qué tal? Horace, tío, es un plataformas 2D que, como muchísimos otros, ha pasado under the radar. O sea, no lo había detectado y mira que lo tenía comprado no, incluido en algún bundle o lo que
A
sea hace
couple of
tiempo.
days after those first lessons,
Un segundo, ahora sí.
the family had a big meal, and I was introduced to everyone else. The professor was the old man's brother. He was very quiet, and always seemed to just kind of stare at me. He had lived with the old man for 5 years. The house was so huge they barely saw each other. He preferred instead to stay in his room, leaving everything up to his butler, Mr. Deck, as he insisted everyone call him, although the professor always called him Anton. For a while, he called me the yellow bastard.
Hijo
The old
puta.
man made him stop, as he thought it sounded racist. Mr. Silton was the old man's driver. Before he worked here, he'd gotten in with some bad people and was the driver in a post office robbery, although it
Hostia.
all went wrong for some reason. Mr.
Coño,
Silton
qué
showed me a
imbécil.
video of his band. I'm sure some people must like it, but I just found it terrifying.
Hostia, habían robado el banco con la furgoneta con
Then
el
there
nombre de
was
la
Alice.
compañía.
She was the cook. She was a nice old lady. When she was younger, she had been a TV chef. Then, years later, she had a small part in Coronation Street. Mr. Silton said, before she worked for the old man, Alice was quite a hoarder. She kept old newspapers and bicycles, and something about a poo in a shoebox. The next morning, the old man gathered everyone together to show them what I was capable of. "What else does he do?" asked Mr. Silton. The old man smiled. "He can help around the house." "Could he help me with my newspaper collecting?" asked Alice. "I'm not sure that's a good idea," said the old lady, "but he can do all sorts of jobs." "Yeah," said Mr. Silton, "shove a stick up his ass and he can do Deck's job." Now, said the old man, "we have company," pointing to some important-looking people. Two large men, both called Gary, set up what the old man referred to as lasers. He said again, I should try to get from one end of the room to the other, but I shouldn't be worried, as I had a special chip which meant no matter how damaged I was, I couldn't die. He said it was like infinite lives in a video game. But when he realized I didn't understand, he said he would explain another time.
Hostia, el juego está muy bien pensado, esta introducción. Lo que estaba diciendo, Valiant, buenas tardes, por cierto, que el juego todavía pasado en estado porque, bueno, tú lo ves y dices, bueno, pues un 2D gracioso, incluido en algún bundle y tal. Pero Piconto, que es un muy buen colega, nos ha estado diciendo estos días que le ha parecido un juego brutal, con buena banda sonora y tal. Y digo, coño, pues voy a probarlo. Y efectivamente, el juego en la pantalla de menú principal empieza con, creo que Claro de Luna de Beethoven. Y a partir de ahí solo puede ir, bueno, podría no ir a mejor. Pero ya el inicio es cojonudo. Oh. Y efectivamente estoy viendo cosas muy inteligentes, muy bien diseñadas, que me dan buen rollo. No he empezado todavía a jugar prácticamente, pero me da buen rollo. ¡Ah! Y luego esta noche, cuando haya echado una horita jugando a este juego, me pondré a viciar a Resident Evil 8, que no lo he empezado. Madre mía, estoy en plan gilipollas. Que no lo he empezado todavía. Sí, la música es brutal, ¿eh?
Everybody clapped, except the important-looking men. Not exactly a cold, calculated killer, is it? Said the man in black. The man in grey laughed. What kind of artificial intelligence was that? He asked. Move right, unless there's something in the way. Okay, said the old man. He turned to me and whispered, they're going to make it quite a bit tougher. But I'm sure you'll be fine.
Ah, sí, he subido el podcast Horace, de RM. Oh. Oh. Mamá. Estoy torpísimo, no sé si es algo de la respuesta del control. Yo lo noto cojonudo, imagino. Pero hostia, estoy torpe, madre mía. Me van a hacer una buena camiseta de bala en el Resident Evil 8. Hostia puta. Bueno, espero que los checkpoints estén un poquito mejor repartidos y sean más continuos en el juego normal. Porque aquí estoy inútil, tío, madre mía. ¡Hostia puta! Madre mía, ¿está normal o estoy muy torpe? ¡Hostia, me cago en tus muertos! Madre mía, muy normal no es esto. La puta.
The Garys then rearranged the room one last time. The old man smiled. Now, there's no need to look so glum, he said. I'm still happy with everything you've done today. So this time, I was determined to do him proud.
Vale, supongo que no debo tocar ese metal. Voy a comprobarlo. Esto lo voy a hacer a posta. No, es que he tocado el... Mierda, qué capullo. Ah, vale. No es el metal. Es la mierda esta. Coño. Ahí. Ah, vale. No sé qué salto me toca ahí. Pero ahí, por ejemplo... Es que el hecho de que te mate de un toque es una idea que ahí no me parece la más inteligente. porque todavía no estoy hecho a ese tipo de movimiento. Vale, si le da un toquecito, hace un salto menos alto, aunque sea largo. ¡Hostia! La madre que me parió. ¡Oh! Vale, la parte difícil es que el juego tiene bastante inercia. No demasiada, pero bastante. La parte buena es que no hace falta que cojas carrerilla antes de saltar, hacer un salto largo. En cuanto empieza a correr ya puedes tener el salto largo disponible.
The old man's friends actually seemed quite happy when I made it through. We might have a winner after all, said the man in black. It's no Killbot 3000, but you can almost see the fire in its eyes. A couple of days later, the old lady said she had a surprise for me, my own room. She also wanted to play me some music. I wasn't sure after what Mr. Silton had shown me.
¿Cuándo?
As if music wasn't amazing enough, the old lady then bought me a television set. I couldn't believe what I saw. I watched everything I could. Comedy, drama, horror, sci-fi. Anything anyone wanted to watch I would happily watch with them. Then one day, the old man set up a small box. He plugged some cables into the television and said, "This is what I meant when I said video games."
¡Qué guapo!
I played games at every chance I could. I took on everyone. I was unstoppable. I had enjoyed music, film, and television. But to me, video games really were the highest art form.
Hostia, qué maravilla. Me está conquistando, ¿eh? Guau. Qué guapo. Coño, table tennis for two. Ah, esto es básicamente el Pong. Oh. Bueno, en estos tiempos yo creo que no había forma de dirigir los tiros, ¿no? Ni similares. ¡Oh! Ah, y el fondo, en los marcos de la pantalla, se ve al viejete jugando al Pong con él.
Heather's birthday was a couple of months later. Her mum and dad had bought her a camera and arranged a day out by the sea so that Heather could take some photos, although I really don't think she wanted any pictures of me. When the old man asked the professor if he wanted to go, he frowned and said, "I can't believe you want to spend time with that thing. It could destroy the world." I wasn't sure what he meant, but the old man just smiled and said, "That's what you said about the Game Boy. Anton, how about you?" "I don't think so," said Mr. Deck. The last time I got in that car, Barry crashed us into a branch of Woolworths. I never would have gone into Woolworths of my own accord. The old man explained that the car was old and the brakes had failed, but Mr. Deck was having none of it. So Mr. Silton drove, and Alice came along for the fresh air. I enjoyed being outside. Although, the old lady kept telling me to be careful of the rickety old walkways. It felt like she was telling me off, but I think she was just concerned. As the old man and I stood on the cliff tops, I could see something in the distance. I wasn't sure what it was, so I asked the old man. He said it was a battleship that had sunk in the 1940s. But he looked so sad when he spoke about war.
Qué buena música.
I didn't see what happened, but the metal platform Heather was climbing on had collapsed. She was safe, even if the rocks she was on looked very dangerous. The tide was rising, and we didn't know how long the Coast Guard was going to be, so I offered to climb down and get her. The old man agreed, but said I should be careful, as Heather doesn't have infinite lives, like I do.
Vamos a ver si increíble,
Heather was unconscious, and her leg was broken, so I picked her up as gently as I could. I decided it would be best if I didn't run the rest of the way.
Es un juego indie de plataformas con una narrativa cojonuda, ¿eh? Está muy bien llevado.
An ambulance had arrived by the time I had made it back to the cliff top. The medics made sure Heather was okay, and then took her off to hospital. A few days later, we all went to see how she was doing. She was fine, but would have to wear the cast for a couple of months.
Girobot. Nearly Dead Medium. El periódico. Medio casi muerto. Medio casi desaparecido. Qué buenos, tío. Esta gente son cracks, ¿eh? Esta gente es buena, de verdad.
Once Heather got to know me, we became good friends. We enjoyed the same films and TV. She was also annoyingly good at some of my favorite games.
Qué bueno.
After a while,
Echa la
she
presión del
became
robot.
very interested in how I worked. Soon she knew as much about me as the old man did, if not more. We spent the next couple of months visiting other countries, as when it came to teaching me things, the old man always liked to pick interesting locations. He had explained the basics of mathematics to me at the Great Pyramid.
Un segundo. Japón, vuelvo. Oh, qué maravilla. Ahora continuar. Like.
Of Egypt. Taught me history in the dead of night, surrounded by mysterious giant stones. And even showed me science in action high up in a hot air balloon. This is why I was surprised when the old man took me to a restaurant. It was nice, but it seemed very somber compared to the previous grand locations. He said he just wanted to chat, and this was nice and quiet. Plus it was his favorite place to eat. We talked about life, the universe, Douglas Adams, everything really. When I asked him why were we here, why did we exist, he just smiled and said, life is like a game, just don't expect to be finished anytime soon. When I looked puzzled, he said, well, everyone should have a purpose. So I asked him, what's my purpose? He thought for a bit, then said, so you want to be a real boy? Which just confused me even more. Eventually the old man said, for now, I want you to help clean things around the house. I must have looked unimpressed, as he then said, okay, I want you to clean 1,000,000 things. It didn't sound like the meaning of life, but I suppose you've got to start somewhere.
Hostia, qué bueno. The man can have everything. What would he put it? Un hombre no puede tenerlo todo. ¿Dónde lo pondría todo?
The next day, the old man said he wanted to install some more software, so he powered me down. When I came to, he said Mr. Silton had a joke for me, and that I should pull his finger. I don't think I got the joke, so the old man powered me down again. This time when I pulled Mr. Silton's finger, I got the joke, but it wasn't very funny. The old man then explained that he had installed a special chip which allowed me to clean away anything that was broken. He said it also tells me how many things are nearby, and how many smaller things are in a bigger thing. It all sounded very complicated, but he said all I really had to do was pause, and it would bring up all the information I needed. He then said he wanted me to find and clean all of the items in the room. He told me there would be some chains to climb, but that would be nice and easy, as I just had to press up. He then finished by saying, when I had collected all the items, I should come back here.
Lo que dijo no es en cuanto terminé de recoger, sino que en cuanto terminase de recoger. ¡Ey! Eso no sabía, coño. 10 cachivaches recogidos. 130. Coño. 100 cachivaches recogidos. Ya tengo 100. 24 combos de chatarra. A ver. 130 cachivaches totales. Cachivaches aquí 101. Cachivaches recogidos 230. Ah, y resoluciones de Lázaro 11. Vale. Las 11 resoluciones serán la vida. A ver, ahora mismo 236. Ah, cachivaches, gilipollas. Claro, cachivaches aquí son los que me quedan. 936, 95. Vale, 272. Vale. Hostia, pues me quedan 55, pero es que tengo más. Oh, si dejo pulsador aquí no me engancho. 20 cachivaches. Ah, un cachivache gordo tienes que dejarte que quedarte en el sitio. 10 cachivaches que me quedan. 3 cachivaches me quedan. Creo que es lo que significa cachivache aquí. ¿Y dónde pueden estar los 3 cachivaches que me quedan? Ah, ahí. Pues me queda un cachivache más. Oh, venga. Pero bueno, ¿dónde está el cachivache que me queda? Tampoco voy a ponerme completionista ahora, me cago en la puta. Ah, que lo follen, me queda uno. Venga, no me lo hago con perfecto. Ah, no, pues no me quedan con más cojones. Tengo que acabármelos todos. Tía. Cago en la puta. ¿Me vas a resistir un puto paquete de algo? Pero ¿dónde mierda está? El cachivache que me falta. Ah, aquí está. Todas las chatarras eliminadas. Ahora.
The old man then asked the old lady Heather and I to follow him outside. I was happy too, as it was a lovely hot day. The old man said he was worried that Alice had been hoarding again. She had filled up a small barn with old bicycles and newspapers. Heather said, this would be a perfect chance to properly test my new powers. The old man thought for a second, then said, using the steptoe chip, I should find and clean at least 300 things. When we explained to Alice what we wanted to do, she seemed scared. But after the old lady kindly explained that, well, the barn was starting to smell, she said it would be okay. One last thing, said the old man. If you want to use a door, just push up. When I was about to enter the old barn, Mr. Silton said he had seen some mushrooms growing inside. He asked me to give him any that I found. He then winked, but I wasn't sure why.
Qué madre mía, qué banda sonora, por favor. Aquí está el contador de vida y me acaba de dar una más. Así, creo que lo que está haciendo el juego es que tengo vida infinita, pero me cuenta cuántas veces he muerto. Ahí la banda sonora con música clásica es una diosa. Perdón. Pues me he guardado un coche. ¿Y cómo subo aquí? Ah, pero claro, ahora aquí ya no quedan nada, ya no quedan cachivaches. Vamos a abrir la puerta. un cachivache que son las setas. Aquí hay 0 cachivaches. Aquí hay una foto, qué gracioso. Mamma mía. Oh, joder. Ah. Aquí no puedo como en otros juegos saltar a la plataforma de arriba, desde abajo y punto. La chatarra terminada, muy bien. Vale, pues yo creo que ya lo he eliminado todo, ¿no?
The old man was very happy with everything that I had cleaned. But I think Mr. Silton was even more happy with his mushrooms.
Qué bueno. No, mira para los lados, en plan que nadie se haya dado cuenta de que va el tema de la sata. Qué buena música, tío.
It wasn't the days getting shorter, or the evenings getting colder. It was the falling leaves that really made me feel sad. As we watched the trees blowing in the breeze, the old lady said, "The leaves must fall before the blossom comes." She had already explained the seasons to me, so for once, I actually understood. But it didn't make me feel any better. The old lady obviously had enough of my moping, and said, "Right, next week we're going to have a party." For some reason she insisted that we were all going to wear costumes. Heather was very excited and said, "I've got some perfect ideas."
Oh, qué chulo. Halloween.
It was terrifying. Everyone was dressed like someone else. I think I was meant to be some kind of
Ah, hostia, si le doy a cualquier botón, lo detengo.
pumpkin, as everyone kept shouting, "It's the great pumpkin." Still, at least Mr. Silton was having fun telling everyone his joke. And I suppose Heather's costume was quite flattering. After what seemed like forever, everybody left, and things got back to normal. Heather was allowed to watch a scary film before she went to bed, but I had to help Alice and Mr. Deck clean up. I wasn't happy about this, but the old man said if I was quick, then I could watch the end of the film with them. Alice was vacuuming, and Mr. Deck was taking down the decorations, so I thought I should clean up the plates and glasses.
Aquí se han quedado cachivaches que me he
The
cogido.
ear-splitting sound was the fire alarm. As usual, Mr. Deck blamed Mr. Silton, saying he was probably smoking one of his jazz cigarettes.
María,
But
serán
then the
las
professor appeared. He said that there was something burning in the kitchen. Alice looked confused, saying that she hadn't cooked anything since the morning. We were all surprised when Mr. Deck opened the oven. Inside was a large black cloak and a slightly burnt pair of men's underwear. Suddenly the old lady burst in. She looked terrified. She kept shouting, there's someone on the roof. When we went outside, it slowly became obvious that it was Mr. Silton. He was completely naked and playing his guitar.
Hostia puta,
He
es un
shouted
subidón.
down, "When I finish this song, I'm going to fly." The old lady said, "Oh my god, I know this one, there's only about 30 seconds left." The old man then quickly turned to me and said, "You know what to do."
Hostia. Oh. Qué temazo musical, por favor. ¡Hostia puto! No, coño. No. Oh. Mami, qué musicón tiene el juego. Pero bueno, esta gente son geniales. ¡Oh, no! Puyo. ¡No! Si pulsa el correr en el aire, alarga el salto. ¡No, coño! Tío, ¿qué coño? ¿Pero por dónde voy ahora? Me cago en la puta, tío. Ah, lo siento. Pues un juego de plataforma sencillo en habilidades por ahora, al menos. Pero, joder, me ha currado.
By the time I had made it up to the roof, Mr. Silton was beside the edge. I tried to calm him down, but he was acting even more bizarre than usual.
Oh, estaba flipando. Robot local idiota. Android and Hero.
After an hour or so, Mr. Silton was fine. He said he had eaten some bad magic mushrooms. Part of me wondered why he hadn't doubled in size. Still,
Mario.
he was soon laughing and joking with the paramedics. One of them said he looked like the world's worst clown. I don't think Mr. Silton liked that. So he told his own joke. But that just made the other paramedic call him Marshmallow Marso. I don't think he liked that either. But at least he was still in one piece.
Esta última no la he pillado yo. Marcel, por favor. Ay, qué guapo. ¿Qué cojones? Ah, está jugando un juego de rol.
A month or so later, Heather and I were playing video games when the old man said he wanted me to come outside. He said it had been a year since I had arrived, so he had a present for me.
New shoes. Ah, no, un oso.
He placed the teddy bear high up on a wooden platform. He then told me I should try to pick it up.
Hijo puta. Aquí no llego.
Try as I might, I couldn't reach the teddy bear. However, I still don't understand what happened next.
¡Ey! Ostras. Y no, ¿qué? De infierno. Están intentando desbloquearlo después de que se murió el papi adoptivo. Qué chulo, tío. Hostia, hijo de puta. ¿Pero a qué coño juegan? El pixel art de este juego es cojonudísimo. Todavía no me puedo mover. Está pasando el tiempo. Qué maravilla de música. ¿Qué cojones? Pero esto qué es. Coño. Obras de arte famosas. Coño, este es el Space Harrier, ¿no? Ah, lo que tiene en su mente ahora mismo es todo el paso de la historia, uno detrás de otro, entre videojuegos, obras de arte. A esta gente es
Was I
increíble.
dead? Was this heaven? It sort of looked like the basement bathroom. It was the shoes the old man was going to give me. I thought I might as well put them on. They were just the right size. The old man's hat fit me pretty good as well. I'm sure he wouldn't mind if I wore it. Amazingly, the shoes allowed me to defy gravity. Or maybe it was the hat.
Oh, qué guapo. Hostia, puedo andar por las paradas. Y qué inteligente es el diseño del juego, que utilizas la corbata para que tú veas en qué posición estás con respecto al suelo normal. Qué bueno, tío. Y la banda sonora, guau. Piconto, muchas gracias, tío. Si no llega a ser por tu consejo, me pasa desapercibido. Mundo hecho trizas. Tía, lo que pasa es que me va a dar un high. Ah, está por la casa, por la casa. Vale, voy a hacer una cosa. Como llevo una hora de streaming y tengo hambre, voy a cortar. Luego me pondré en Resident Evil 8 y este juego lo voy a ir jugando todos los días. Me ha gustado un montón, pero voy a aprovechar que este es el inicio de un capítulo nuevo y lo voy a dejar aquí. Ceno y luego más tarde, dentro de una hora o así, o quizás media hora, vengo con el Resident Evil 8. Muchas gracias por pasaros y nada, luego ya empiezo el Resident Evil 8 desde el principio, ¿vale? En directo. Y este juego ha sido un sorpresón que te cagas. Me acabo de quedar. ¡Wow! ¡Wow! ¡Qué maravilla! ¡Qué maravilla! Son capaces de hacerte unos indies cuando son geniales. Simplemente geniales. Bueno, contentísimo con el juego. Un saludo y luego sigo con el Resident. Gracias por pasaros.